lockdowns may not be as effective as we believe them to be, and perhaps social distancing is the best thing to do as a middle ground for the economy. And we should not believe, actually, that lockdowns are as effective as we're being told they are, or believe this mainstream media messaging around fear. So this is data from the Czech Republic, and you can see here the top is daily confirmed COVID-19 cases. It's a rolling 3-day average. It goes till May the 14th. We are recording this podcast on May the 15th. And the lockdown is implemented when there were 30 cases being seen per day. And you can see that right here on the video. We'll post this on YouTube. I'll do a snippet on Instagram as well. And the lockdown in the Czech Republic was relaxed when there were 120 cases per day, and there were 7 deaths occurring per day. And this is the most important piece that I want to point out here, and in a number of other countries. When the lockdown is released, cases do not spike. And yet there were 120 cases per day when it was eased, and 30 cases per day when it began. To me, this suggests something I've been talking about throughout the coronavirus epidemic, which is the notion of a FARR curve, F-A-R-R, which is what happens with respiratory viruses, where you get a rise and fall pretty much regardless of what you do. And the hypothesis that I would offer to people is that perhaps the lockdowns don't do anything more than social distancing, that we can achieve all of these same measures with social distancing, and that perhaps the virus spreads regardless of what we do, regardless of these measures, which are so, some would say, draconian. This is very similar. A lot of people are always interested in Sweden. We know that Sweden had social distancing. They did not have a lockdown. They have 343 deaths per million. New Jersey had a full draconian lockdown order. They have 1,085 deaths per million. And you can see that the curve is pretty much the same. When we draw this curve of best fit along the deaths in Sweden, and you can see that pretty much in Sweden and in New Jersey, you get this sinusoidal pattern because there's underreporting on the weekends. And so drawing this curve of best fit is a little tricky. But in New Jersey, it's looking very similar to the overall pattern of Sweden, and pretty much everywhere in the US now. I can show US data as well. It goes up and it comes down. People would say, oh, look, the lockdown's working. No, it goes up, it comes down. And people are, believe me, in the streets, moving around in Sweden like normal. And if you look at Ivor's post here in the Czech Republic, like we talked about, there are tweets saying, I live in the Czech Republic and life is basically back to normal, except wearing a scarf or cloth masks in close quarters or transit. I go to work in the agency. We generally don't wear masks once we arrive inside. The subway is full again. We were outside in the pub today, 60 plus people having beer outside. So in Czech Republic, people are totally back to normal, and there is no spike in infections. To me, suggesting that a lockdown is not what is saving us right now. The third thing is Slovenia, exactly the same pattern. The lockdown is implemented when there are 20 cases being seen per day. You can see that here at the blue line. Then again up top, COVID cases, on the bottom, deaths. These are rolling 3-day averages. The lockdown was relaxed in Slovenia when there were 20 cases being seen per day with 4 deaths occurring per day at the peak. And look, there's really no bump, and it just continues this downward pattern, and the pandemic has been declared over in Slovenia. So how can they relax the lockdown when the cases are at the peak and still see a decline in infections if the lockdown is really what's saving us? My suggestion is that the lockdown is doing essentially nothing, that these respiratory viruses spread regardless of what we do. 66% of the cases in New York City are from people in their homes, short of locking everyone in a glass bubble. And this is what we were saying in the beginning. We can't cure the coronavirus. We can't eradicate the coronavirus. This will be with us and it will spread. And I said this on last week's podcast, this global pandemic began with 15 cases in Wuhan, China. Why do we believe that we can hide from this virus indefinitely? Why do we believe that sheltering in our homes until there's a vaccine is the right answer? That's impossible. We must ease these at some point, lest we completely destroy the total global economy. And there are many places in the world where this lockdown has been stopped, and we've seen no spike in infections.